Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Insurance Journal's Academy of Insurance's weekly webinar after show. I'm your host, George, and joining me for the after show is not only the director of the Academy of Insurance, but the I wouldn't say instructor, I would say moderator for today's webinar. Today's webinar was the Sinking Florida Property Insurance Market, a panel discussion. And our moderator for today was none other than Mr. Patrick Rate. Patrick, welcome to the after show.
Thanks, George. It's been a great day.
Yeah, it was a great lively discussion. Absolutely. I confess I'm not as intimately embedded or entrenched in the climate of the Florida insurance marketplace. There seemed like a lot of I don't know about controversial or volatile, but certainly discussion worthy and conversation laden topics like flood insurance, property, commercial, how rates affect everybody, legislation affects insurance. And you've been in Florida for a while writing insurance policies and training underwriters. Was it this, again, I don't want to use the word contentious, but definitely was it this lively when you first got started writing for your MGA? And if not, when did it start to become more like it was today?
So this has been going on. Hurricane Andrew over 30 years ago was the biggest wake-up call to the Florida insurance market. Before Andrew, there hadn't been a significant hurricane strike in many, many years. And then over the last 30 years, between storms and, well, for lack of a better way to put it, fraud and misuse of insurance and other things, the market has been very, very difficult. Contentious is probably a good word in many ways. We deal with in Florida similar things that are dealt with in other parts of the country, except usually if you drive down your interstate in New Hampshire, you'll see, I'm sure, at least one billboard for a personal injury attorney. Here in Florida, we have those, and we have billboards for attorneys that are looking to sue insurance companies for property damage to somebody's home. So instead of, like the panel mentioned, 80% of all property litigation is in Florida, and nationally, 8% of claims occur in Florida. That's a huge disparity. It's a difficult thing when, instead of the client calling the insurance consumer calling their insurance company to say, hey, I had a thing happen, they call an attorney who then files the claim for the insurance company.
Got it. So one of the sort of the lines or the party lines or the pieces of rhetoric I heard throughout the discussion was as goes Florida, so goes the rest of the country. But Florida also, one of the lines in the discussion was that Florida has a unique kind of insurance climate between the weather events and, like you said, the lawyers that sue the insurance companies and the different things. So why does the rest of the country go as Florida goes if Florida has such a unique set of circumstances that surround the insurance professional?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because what happens here is something that the rest of the country will pay attention to. You will see things like, for example, in Florida, your insurance company can say, well, because you, George, have got an older roof, we're going to not give you replacement cost for your roof. We're going to value your roof at actual cash value until you replace it. Or if it's old enough, they'll just say, your roof is so old, we're not covering your roof. And that kind of thing can go from Florida to around the country. Now, I'm not certain whether or not that started here in Florida, but that's an example of something that could happen. Florida is unique in that there's over 1,300 miles of coastline, the longest coastline in the contiguous United States. But we've got so many people moving into Florida, and there is a real issue with the coverage issues and the pricing issues here that can communicate into other parts of the country simply because of, for example, a company that's large enough could have write things in Florida and write things in other states. And in order for the company to make a profit, they may have to raise their rates in other parts of the country to absorb the losses that they're having here.
Oh, okay. Ooh, that's an interesting idea. So what does that mean for, I know reinsurance was mentioned a few times. Is it against the law to have, like, do insurance companies moving out of Florida or writing less policies in Florida leave it open for maybe foreign countries to come in and be the reinsurance companies for, not foreign countries, but foreign based insurance companies to write insurance or provide the reinsurance for insurance companies? Is that something that people think might be dangerous or not good, or is that already something that people can, that might be happening?
Sure, that's a really good question. When it comes to reinsurance, as probably everybody knows, reinsurance is simply a fancy way of saying insurance on insurance.
Right.
So the insurance company buys reinsurance so that they can be reimbursed if losses get too high. That's part of the way that they show that they've got enough money available to them to pay all their claims. Many reinsurers are actually, to use a technical insurance term, many of them are alien insurers, which is to say that they are based outside of the US.
Okay.
Most of your property insurers, most of your standard market or admitted insurers in the state of Florida are going to be domestic, which are going to be based in Florida. There is a decent sized E&S market. We were talking a little bit about that, and those are all going to be foreign insurance companies, which in insurance foreign simply means from out of state. So
Okay.
those issues all kind of work together. The reinsurers, you may have heard Lisa mention Bermuda and Abby mentioned London. Those are the two centers in the reinsurance universe primarily, and that's where the money is coming from for a lot of these companies that may not have huge reserves. The issue that we're seeing is that the cost for their reinsurance is going up significantly. And when it does that, then the insurance policy that the consumer purchases goes up significantly as well. And insurance companies say, well, we can't afford those premiums to the reinsurer, and they stop doing business in the state. And they kind of pull out of Florida, or they stop or close up shop.
Thank you very much for that. And the distinction between what foreign means and something from international means, I guess that's super interesting too. So our panel today consisted of the head of an independent insurance agency, a podcaster who's super savvy about the Florida legislature and things like that, a podcaster, and an insurance consultant. Actually, an insurance consultant. I'm not sure if she's a podcaster. So we've got a reporter, an insurance consultant, a podcaster, and a head of an independent insurance agency. What other kind of panelist would you have liked, in addition, to have in the discussion? Maybe one of those lawyers that sues insurance companies for their perspective, or what would have been an interesting addition to this this Mount Rushmore of Florida insurance knowledge that we gave the world today?
That's a good question. I like that. George, you are on fire today with your
starting 2023 with a bang.
There you go. There are a couple of plaintiff attorneys that I might have considered to bring on in the panel. There's a couple of our academy friends that we've had before that I wouldn't have minded being with us today. Somebody like a big thinker like Bill Wilson, or a real practical down and dirty kind of insurance educator like Dave Thompson. They would have been fantastic, and we could have probably filled the screen with commentators, but then we'd be 3 hours worth of conversation. And so,
Sure.
as it is, we've probably got questions that could go another hour or better.
We should have a follow-up to this panel discussion, because I don't think we could probably put a live cam on this and just keep, not you and I per se, but the panel just keep talking about these things. That kind of segues into my next question. So in addition to maybe an additional kind of panelist, we talked, there were so many different kinds of insurance that we discussed.
Did you notice we
professional lines, personal?
parametric?
Absolutely. I didn't want to start audibly, I just want to start dancing on camera, but I was actually sad about Rob's, like, when he said parametric would enter into these things, but that it doesn't pay out too much or whatever. I was like, parametric's the best. It should pay out for everybody. But I mean, that's another story, I guess. But was there any kind of policy that you thought should be discussed? But we had a brief comment about InsurTech, parametric, commercial, and we talked about, like, being definitely not just an order taker, but a friend to the insureds. Like, it was kind of ran the arc of insurance sensibilities. But is there any kind of policy you thought that should have been discussed but wasn't?
Yeah, I think we were dealing with what was the real issues in the market. It's
Flood.
We could have talked a little bit more about private flood. I think Rob had some interesting comments in relation to that. They did not come on board with the idea of insurers universally offering flood.
Right.
As for me, my go-to thought is, why not? Why not? Why can't we do it? But then again, from a practical standpoint, some insurers just look at the risk and go, there's no way we're getting into that.
Right. I was going to say, how very Robert F. Kennedy of you, but I don't know. Why not? I asked why not, So yeah, so Florida, I had no idea it was such a hotbed of, do you find it really interesting as a blog writer, not just an instructor, but like an observer of the Florida insurance? Do you hope it stays tumultuous? Do you hope it gets better? Do you think it will get better for the insureds, or is it going to get better but not anytime soon? Because one of the things we advertised about this course was that we're going to talk about 2022, and we were going to talk about what might happen in 2023, but it kind of blurred together, so.
Yeah, I have a real sense that where we are today, this may sound, I'll just say it. Where we are today is sitting in a difficult place to balance. In the next year, if no storms impact Florida, things will go smoothly. If we string together 2 or 3 of those years where no storms hit Florida, the market will certainly rebound to the place where, if it goes long enough, 5, 6, 7 years without any appreciable storm damage, many of the insurance companies will develop amnesia about what's going on now or what's gone on in the last couple of years, and things will go back to the way they were maybe a decade ago.
Got it.
If, on the other hand, we have an overactive storm season where there are multiple storms that impact the state, we're going to see more of the same. we'll see more companies that are closing up shop. We'll see more companies pulling out. We'll see more companies raising rates to an unsustainable level for the consumer, and it will not fix. Some of the things, in my estimation, some of the things that were done by legislatively can help, but only really 18, 24 months can tell for sure.
Got it. Well, thank you, Patrick. On that note, I think we should say goodbye to our after show observers. I really appreciate your taking time to be on the after show with me. And thank you to all our panelists too. They took time out of their super busy schedules to join us. And hopefully we can do another one of these in the not too distant future. What do you think?
I'm hoping so. I've got a list of questions and conversation that came through the chat that I'm going to send off to the panel and see what they want to do with it.
Wonderful.
But they all seemed amenable to the idea of a part two, a second round, if you will.
I didn't hear any dissenting tones to any of them. So deck the halls with parametric, as they have said. So on behalf of our director and today's moderator, Patrick Raitt, this is George, your host, saying thanks everybody for joining us for the after show. Check out the panel discussion. It'll be on demand pretty soon. Have a great day, everyone. Take care of yourselves. Buy flood insurance, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye, everybody.